So the pasuk says, very interesting how the Torah says such an interesting lashon. It's not the heilige chinuch, a mitzvah tof lamed. And as we know, the chinuch explains mitzvahs in such a beautiful, profound way. And the chinuch explains, what is the mitzvah of benching? What does it mean to bench? What's the aside? What are we trying to accomplish when we bench? So the heilige chinuch, listen to this, and I quote the lashon. Mekubal ani meraboisai, shekol azar bebirchas hamazoin mezoinoisav mutsuinoi bekovet kol yomov. So the heilige chinuch, if you're looking for a skula which is tried and tested from the chinuch to have parnasa your entire lifetime in a easy and a mechubadik oifen, benching. That's what it's all about. We always say that the definition of a good business deal is something that doesn't require a tremendous amount of effort and work on our behalf, but reaps tremendous rewards. And there's many mitzvahs that can fall into that category. I would say that benching is probably one of them. Apart from the fact that we'll see in a minute, it's a daraisa, it's a pasuk, as we just mentioned the pasuk. But on Koponim, it's a serious, this is it. The chinuch says, he got from his Rabbi Say, from his Rebbeim, that if a person is careful in Birchas HaMazon, it's guaranteed that he's going to have a beautiful, easy, mechubadik parnasa his whole lifetime. I mean, what better investment in that than that? What does it take to bench already? A few minutes? Halavai. A few minutes, and that's it. You've got an investment of good parnasa. People are struggling for parnasa, Rahman al-Islam. You should all be zocheh, the beautiful, incredible parnasa. But this is it. This is one of the ways to do it. Birchas HaMazon. So I want to spend a couple of minutes just to try to be machazik the inyan, a little bit of Birchas HaMazon, because not that we don't do it, we do it, but sometimes it's a bit of a rush, sometimes it's bli kavana, sometimes without even realizing what we're doing. So let's spend a moment or two to understand exactly what's going on. There's a famous Gemara, which is the Makar Be'etzem in Chazal, for where this comes from. Gemara in Brachas Mem Chesem Beis, where the Gemara tells us very clearly that ubeirachta zavada, the mitzvah of Birchas HaMazon, which means that when you are soveya, when you are satisfied, by the way, that doesn't mean stuffed. It means when you're satisfied from your eating, you're no longer hungry. Achalta v'savata ubeirachta. Okay? Which means now you bench. The benching that you do after being soveya, satisfied, is a mitzvah da'oraisa. Can you imagine? We're all familiar with the mitzvah of Kriyas HaMolek, for example, that we do. Right? Everybody stands there, everybody's listening, only hear every single word. What's the difference between that and benching? There is no difference. They're both a daraisa. Teretzis, one is once a year, and one is, every day, maybe even twice a day. So we get sort of desensitized a little bit to the idea of benching. But we, Rabbi say, we have to re-machadish, we have to reawaken, re-arouse ourselves to hopefully be machavan a bit more in benching, to understand what we're doing. We're doing a mitzvah daraisa. Now, l'maisa, if you eat less than soveh, if you're not full, the Shulchan Aruch in Kuf Beit Dalet says quite clearly that the chiyuv to bench is there, but it's a d'Rabbanan. It's a d'Rabbanan, simply because you will not mekayim that which the Torah said, v'savata, which means to be satisfied. And if you eat, by the way, less than a kazayit, this can happen, by the way. I think one of my guys in the yeshiva once asked me the shaila. They decided to wash, Baruch Hashem, and then they ate a little bit of bread, or whatever it was, pizza, whatever it was that we're serving here for lunch. Then they're like, you know what, I don't want to eat this. I don't need this. The question is, do I have to bench? Shaila is, do I have to bench? If you have less than a kazayis of bread, you do not have to bench. You don't even have to bench. So that is the halacha over there. So the general halacha is, by the way, kazayis is very small. It's 3/4 of a rug halacha, like a matchbox, small little thing. It's not even that much, by the way. But in a regular case, you'll be chayiv, for most cases, d'oraisa, because you're going to be satisfied, and at least a d'Rabbanan if you are not satisfied. Now this is a very interesting thing that I want to point out for the olam. Because on Maisa, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are makayim the mitzvah in the best possible way. Everybody wants to bench mid'oraisa. Nobody wants to bench mid'Rabbanan. Because you want to makayim the mitzvah d'oraisa. You want to be chayiv mid'oraisa. So how, Yosef, are you going to make sure that every single time you eat bread and you have a suda, that your benching is going to be a d'oraisa? What do you have to do to make sure that it's a d'oraisa rafal? Very, very important. So the first thing is obviously to be soveya. That's poshut, right? I have to be satisfied. I want to be satisfied, shloima. And once I'm satisfied, now I'm going to be benching mid'oraisa, which is beautiful. But there's another aspect which I want to add, which many people I'm sure know, but many people maybe have forgotten. And that is the inyan of drinking. That drinking is a very big part to benching being a d'oraisa. What does that mean? And again, I don't want to go now into too many of the details, but the Shulchan Aruch brings in Kuf Tzadi Dalet that if a person, according to many, the Mefarshim bring down, it's a Gemara. The Gemara says, Achalta zu achila, v'savato zu shtia. That means some Mefarshim learn that that the savato means drinking, and now ubeirachta. That means if you want to have the beirachta of the Torah, meaning the chayav d'oraisa of benching, you have to have done two things. Achalta, I ate, I'm satisfied. V'sovata, I now drank. I quenched my thirst. Now ubeirachta, midoraisa. Okay, Shloima? That means what? That means if I want to makayim the d'oraisa benching, I not only have to eat, I also have to drink, which means according to that, if I have a meal and I'm stuffed, so it's beautiful, I'm stuffed, I'm actually thirsty. Say I'll buy a drink later. Oh, I'll go down the street, I'll buy a Coke Zero, whatever it is, Pepsi Max. I'll buy whatever it is that I need later. Say I'm not thirsty, I'm thirsty now, but I'll buy later, or I'll go upstairs to the water thing and I'll go get some water over there. Say let me bench and let me go upstairs. According to many, you're actually not chayiv midoraisa to bench. Now again, you're chayiv midorabonim, which is a beautiful thing, but I want to be chayiv doraisa. So that's why many people have the minig that obviously many people drink in the meal, so that's fine, but they'll dafka drink something right before benching. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but people are makpid to dafka drink something right before benching. This way they will makayim all the shitas of ochalta, v'savata zushtia, and now you got ubeirachta in that case over there. If I'm not thirsty, then I'm okay. If I'm completely not thirsty, which is quite unusual, because the Gemara says the whole reason why you don't have to make everyone to drink, because it goes together with achila. So stomach you are, but if you have a very moist food or something maybe, then it will be okay. Noshim, women are generally chayiv to bench. It's a suffix if they are chayiv mid oraisa or mid rabbanon, because it's a shaila if it's a mitzvah seisha zman kurama, whatever it is that we're not going into. Of course, a shah mid rabbanon is chayiv anyway. Now it's important to remember, in order to bench, we want to try to bench as soon as we can without forgetting. The Bach says this clearly. People sometimes forget, they move places, Shinei Mokim. You don't want to get involved in Shinei Mokim as well, right? You don't want to leave the building and go for a phone call and then have to come back. You have a shayla of Shinei Mokim. It's kedai. When you eat, you bench straight away afterwards, and it should be done in that way over there. It should be done bedibur, not behiro, which means that when you bench, the words are meant to come out of your mouth. You don't have to be loud necessarily, but it has to be loud enough that by etzem you could be able to hear it. I think there's a shayla in one of the shuvas for him. Let's say a person is benching at a Rebbe's tish. It's loud as anything. So he can't hear anything, but be'etzem, if it will be quiet, he would be able to hear. What din does that have? Al kaponim, the idea is to leave bread also on the table as well before you bench, not to remove the bread. So it's nikah that you're benching, it's chal on something which is the bread, which of course you're benching. And the idea is, by the way, and we'll end with this, the idea is Yisod v'shoish v'avoida brings a moedik azach. The Yisod v'shoish v'avoida tells us that he writes actually a whole zach to his kids, that every single time something good happened to him, he always thanked the Rabbeinu Shalom. He recognized that everything in his life came from the Melech Malchem Lochem, came from the Rabbeinu Shalom. And it's such a beautiful thing to remember. It's such an incredible idea. I spoke to a Bacha Erev Shabbos in Chutz Laretz, an old Bacha of the yeshiva, and he says to me, and he's done so well, he's grown so tremendously, beautifully well, and he said to me, I have a thing every single day, I don't go to sleep until I make sure to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for something specifically he did for me today. A boy told me in the yeshiva, he says Mizmor Asayda 3 times before he goes to sleep. He has a whole cheshbon, why dafka 3, but he always goes to sleep by thanking the Rabbeinu Shalom for something that happened that day. That is Birchas Hamazon. Birchas Hamazon, if you go through the words, and maybe perhaps you should go through the art school at least once, maybe even every time, that will be halavai. You can understand what's going on, you can thank the Rabbeinu Shalom, appreciate that which the Rabbeinu Shalom has given us. As we've said many, many times, that when you give someone a present and they don't appreciate it, what is the likelihood of you giving them another present? It's quite low. You may give them another present, but it's quite low. The Rabbeinu Shalom gives us presents every single moment of our lives. We're here, we can breathe, we can see, we can walk, we can talk. The gifts that we have are endless. They're beautiful, they're incredible. Do we appreciate them? Maybe, but we need to learn to appreciate them even more. And that's what benching is. We have food, we bench the Rabbeinu Shalom, we bench everything that we have, and then we're zoicha to all of the brachas that we have. V'achalta, v'savata, u'verachta. Have a wonderful and beautiful day.